Hey everybody, welcome to the Patty G Show. I'm your host, Patty G. This week, we have a very special guest, one of our proud partners of the show, and some good friends in the making with me. So we've got Mimosa Handcrafted this week. We've got Dawson and Madeline. We're going to learn about what it is exactly that they do, how they got started, where they are today, and everything Mimosa. But before we get to that, I want to give a big, wonderful shout out and thank you to the amazing folks that bring you the show each and every week. Building 5, Falaya Real Estate, Currency Bank, the bank for business owners, Lake Men's Health Center, Horizon Financial Group, Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge, of course, Mimosa Handcrafted Jewelry, and you know our outfit of the day is always brought to you by McLavy Ltd. Without further ado, Dawson and Madeline, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
I'm excited to have y'all on and learn about y'all's journey and kind of how you work together as a couple. Yeah. So for those that may not be aware, who are y'all and what do you do?
I'm Madeline, this is Dawson, and we have Mimosa Handcrafted Jewelry. It's a local jewelry company where we do lost wax casting. So I will take basically like a lump of wax, carve in the design, and then once I have what the end product looks like would just be a piece of wax, hand that off to Dawson. He takes a mold of it. It goes through a lot of processes and steps and becomes metal. So lost wax casting is like an ancient art. They've been doing it since the Egyptians have been making jewelry. So it's the same process. We just have slightly fancier tools to do the same process with. But we do all of that in-house, and we buff it, clean it, finish it, polish it, and we have a store here locally that we sell it all in. And it's really fun to make things, and then like from the very start of the creating of it and then all the way to handing off to the customer in person.
It's like a full circle of getting the raw goods and then making it yourself.
Yeah, so it comes in like little granules of bronze. We cast in bronze, sterling silver, and 14 karat gold. And it all comes in just in little grains, and we melt it down and pour it into the mold. Yeah, like little BBs. And so, you know, if something doesn't work out, we can remelt it and reuse it. All of the gold we use is recycled gold. So it's a cool process. The whole that part, it's really hard to put into words, and it's even hard to do on video because it spans over several days. So right. And a lot of it is happening in the mold, so you can't see it. So it's been hard to kind of educate the customer on what exactly lost wax casting is. And we've tried several different ways. We've made models, we've done like cartoon drawings and things. But there are some cool videos that are long form on YouTube that you can watch on lost wax casting. The process for it is the same thing that's used for large cast sculptures. Like if you see a bronze sculpture downtown or something, usually that's a cast, but it's done with like a foundry or something with a huge, like our casting equipment would be like a Coke can or something, like a really small, like the crucible that we're casting out of. Theirs would be a pour, you know, the size of a giant sculpture. So it's a really different scale, but it's the same process.
And how did y'all get into this? I mean, lost wax casting, it sounds like y'all have obviously come from a lineage of jewelry makers and, you know, just been in your family for decades. It's a passed down tradition, right? I mean, it's got to be the case.
Of course. No, we both were landscape architects. And then I had just been making jewelry at home, like I guess to go way back. My mom was a seamstress, so she sewed and always had customers coming in our house, and she would let me pick up the scraps and sew things and put me in sewing lessons. In fact, I was in sewing lessons when I was 9, and our daughter's taking sewing lessons this week, and she's 9, so I feel like all emotional about it because it was really like the first experience of being able to take a somewhat raw material like fabric and create something that I wanted out of it, you know, that didn't exist before. So my mom let me have access to those tools, so that was kind of like my first like, oh, I could just make a dress or make a purse or whatever. And somewhere along the way that became jewelry too, and it was just beaded things, you know, in junior high and high school. And then all through college I kept kind of with my tackle box adding more beads to it, adding more equipment. If I got spending money, I'd spend it on supplies. And then when I graduated, our projects were really large scale master plans. So it was like you'd work for a year, 2 years or more on a project before you saw anything implemented. So it wasn't like very instant gratification at all. So I'd go home after work and make jewelry at night. And it's kind of like I did something with my hands today, you know. And Dawson is much more entrepreneurially minded, and he was kind of like, okay, it's piling up. What you should probably sell it or something.
I was say, are you selling it this time or?
No, I wasn't selling until we got married, and he kind of said that, like, okay, you're spending all of your spending money on this, and it's piling up, and what's your plan here? And I was like, I don't know, I just want to make jewelry. And so he was like, let's get an LLC, let's go apply for some markets. And I was like, what's that? How do you do that? You know, and he already had a business for several years at that point, Mimo's. So we got an LLC. We applied to the arts market downtown. They accepted me on the condition that I would improve my skills. So it wasn't like it was terrible. I was still really bad.
Wait, what?
But yeah.
Well, it was mostly beaded stuff.
This was a long time ago. I wasn't even. Okay. I was doing. Yeah. I needed to improve my skills.
So like you had a company name at this point in time, or?
Yeah, I think I might have named it. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it was Mimosa by me.
Yeah, we got the LLC in January, and I applied, I guess, after that. So I had to have had the name at that point. But it didn't mean the work was good. The work was okay. But I did improve, and I started taking classes at that point. And having it as a legitimate business at that point, or somewhat legitimate, I guess, made me feel like, oh, well, then I can really invest into it and really pour more time into it. And then also knowing that once a month I was going to go show it in front of people and talk to them about it. It was like a totally different relationship with the pieces, with the end product. It wasn't like, oh, just I have to like it. It was like, maybe I should care about how long this is, or, you know, if the clasp is wonky or whatever. So we started doing that, and that was, he was, you know, really good about like helping me with displays and setting up the tables in the tent. And, you know, we found like the top of a tent in the trash and the bottom over here. We were just rigging it all together. But that like got the momentum going of like showing up for it, you know, and I would just spend all of my free time doing that pretty much. So
late at night.
Like I would come home from work and start making jewelry, and he would go out with their friends, and they'd be like, you come in, like poke their head in the room, and I'd be like, I'm gonna stay here all night. And I'd stay up till like 3 a.m. or whatever, just making jewelry, watching like Office. National Treasure in the Office over and over, because the TV was like over there. This was like before Netflix and all that, so it was like whatever DVD was in the TV was just what I watched the entire night.
So you're watching like the Office DVD version.
Yeah.
Oh,
just on loop, because I didn't feel like changing it. So I was like, well,
disc 1 of season 3.
Yeah, it was like
the whole scene.
I feel like Mimosa was like built on National Treasure, The Gladiator, The Burbs was in there at some point. With Tom Hanks. Anyway, those because it was, you know, that's all the only DVDs I had. But so at that point I was still like coming home after work and just working all night. I guess if this is part of the question.
This is it, absolutely.
And then at some point, let's see, that went on for years. We started doing
Shrinky dinks.
Yeah. As far as the pieces themselves, I started doing some metal stuff. This was the process called PMC.
Yeah, how did you learn from it?
It's precious metal clay. The bead store that I would shop for my beads at the time sold this precious metal clay. And so imagine that there is pulverized metal. It's like powder. Metal, just imagine this metal powder, and then you mix it in with a clay binder. So it's like clay mixed with like powder metal. Well, you can make whatever you want, just like you would with clay. You can make a little heart or whatever, shape or something, stamp into it with stamps, all that kind of stuff. So you could make something. Well, then you put it in a carbon, it's like powder in a dish that goes into a kiln, and you fire it. Well, when it fires, it burns away all that clay binder, and all that's left is the metal. The metal fuses at that temperature that it is in the kiln. So the clay binder burns away. So that's about 20% of it. So it shrinks down to about 20% of the original size. And then it's just a little metal like piece of whatever you had made in clay. It is like magic.
That is like magic.
So that was my first like kind of foray into metal work.
The CYA 360 Business Leader Symposium returns to Baton Rouge in October. This all-day event focuses on the main threats to your business. Speakers will present on fiduciary duties, brand building, insurance strategies, cybersecurity, exit strategies, financial confidence, and executive wellness. Jay Johnson, coach of the National Champ LSU baseball team, will deliver the keynote address. Join us for the 2023 Business Leader Symposium, October 5th at the Renaissance. For tickets, go to CYA360.com. That's CYA360.com.
Little metal like piece of whatever you had made in
magic.
clay. It is like magic.
That is like magic.
So that was my first like kind of foray into metalwork.
So and like
but
you were watching YouTube videos at this point in
No,
time?
I don't think
how are
YouTube
you-
was even a thing really back
How
then.
are you
'Cause this
really
was like
figuring out how to do
2000.
this?
This was like 2008.
Okay.
Like little. I'm sure there was the internet.
And you did that class at Aramont,
I did
too.
No, but this was way before that. This was like
okay.
I did a class at the bead store. I guess Baton Rouge Bead Company, I think was where it was on Coursey. I took a class there. They had a lady who traveled and taught these classes, and I took a class with her, and she was like a really, I don't know, she had just a great personality, and she was like kind of opened my mind to what it could be. And there were people who came in from like New Orleans, like all over different places, and kind of helped me see what you could do with this. So that was my first like experience of that. So I took that home and was like, oh, I'm gonna, so I played around with that a lot. I did a lot of precious metal clay. I also started making stuff with shrinky dinks. So that's the old plastic stuff that you put designs on. You can print designs on, and then you cut it out and you put it in the oven and it shrinks. A lot of people do it when they're kids.
Okay.
So
And
it's
if
like
you get it wet, the design
just
disappears.
goes away. It's
Okay,
plastic.
Clearly, I
It's
did not do
literally-
this as a kid.
Yeah.
So just forgive me. But
Okay.
for others that
Yeah.
don't know what a
So
shrinky
you
dink
have
is,
like
you know.
a sheet of paper that's kind of like this plastic material.
Okay.
When we were kids, it was more like you just draw on it with markers and then cut it out like a circle or a heart or whatever, sun or something. And then you put it in the oven and it shrinks down to like probably a fraction, like
Yeah,
an eighth
but it
of the
gets
size.
thicker, too.
It gets thicker, but it shrinks way down. And then you could put like a key ring on it or, a little thing and make a necklace out of it. It's not meant to last forever.
Okay, so you're like just like creating kind of like a decorative piece to go
Yeah.
on something. You're not
Yeah.
making like a whole necklace.
Well, so that's what
like
that
pendants.
is. It's just like
Gotcha.
pieces to
Earrings,
go.
a lot of earrings,
A
I
lot of
think.
earrings, a lot of pendants. But mostly what I was doing was printing things on it. So like old maps or, the
Herald Fish.
skyline, that kind of stuff. Onto these things, and then painting it with fingernail polish because that sealed it. So if it did get wet, it wouldn't necessarily just come off. So I sold a lot of shrinky dink jewelry. And then at some point, because I had my little kiln, this kiln was this big. I think the inside was like maybe 8 inches by 8 inches or something. I was like, oh, you fire clay in kilns, like ceramics. So it's kind of like, I wonder, I could fire ceramics. So I got a bag of clay and started making ceramic jewelry. And because we don't know, well, I should speak for myself. I don't know anything about this, like what you're supposed to do, because my background is a landscape architect. I'm sure I was breaking all the rules, but with how you are supposed to use clay. But I just spaced out and realized that I'm having an interview right now. I'm sorry.
You're good. So you've got this clay, you've got a kiln,
Yes.
you're trying to figure
took
out
a
what you're going to
class.
do with it. You took a class.
No, I didn't take a class for the clay.
How do you know all the
So-
cone firing levels?
I don't, because we had an electric kiln, and it's just like on the back of the little thing of clay. So
No,
I
but
didn't.
like, it would just tell you like, oh, this is a porcelain clay. It
Yeah.
needs to be.
The guy at the store was always super nice, and he would just tell me like, fire this at this. So I would just make sure that thing on the kiln matched the thing on the back of the little container that the clay and the glaze came in. But it was so fun because I was just experimenting, doing whatever. Probably not even the safest thing in the world because like I didn't know what I was doing. Now
little
looking
kiln
back,
was like in our living room.
yeah, like in the house,
inside the house and
yeah.
everything.
And I'm
Eating
like,
dinner, you have the kiln going on the side.
I'm like,
let's put a pizza
sand-
in there, see
totally
what happens.
glazing at the kitchen table, dusting. I'm like, don't know. This is probably why I spaced out just now, like thinking about how not safe this all was. Like not supposed to breathe this stuff in. You should be doing like ventilated spaces only. But I didn't know. So, anyway, made a lot of really cool jewelry, I think, and had a lot of fun just trying everything. And at that point I could glazes, there's every color you can imagine. You can mix the glazes, you can do all the different things. So that was really fun. Then I did Festival. Do you remember Festival, the festival in Baton Rouge?
Festival.
It's called Ebb and Flow Festival now.
Okay, I know of Ebb and Flow.
Yeah,
Or
it used to be. It
Okay,
used to be called
was
Festival.
Got it.
And that was around for a long time.
Yeah. So that festival was downtown, and we did that one year. And let's see, at this point, I was still working full time as a landscape architect, but I was pregnant with my son Charles, and I was maybe like 6 months pregnant at least. So this was like 2011. No, what year was he born? 11. Yeah, sorry, 2011. So I started Mimosa in 2008. This was 2011. I was pregnant with him. I won at this award. You could win, at the festival, you could win awards if you were like best in show or you had a cool booth or whatever. I actually can't even remember why we won the award, but we won an award, and the award was that you got to go to Aeromont in Tennessee, and that was this school where they teach, everything from ceramics to metalsmithing and all that. So I took a metalsmithing class. Turned out that the professor there was Christopher Heinz, who teaches jewelry at LSU. Randomly was the teacher, and it was like, I'm driving all the way to Tennessee to learn from this guy who teaches basically in our backyard. But he was one of the best professors I've had of all the schooling I've had in my entire life. He was really great. And it was fun to be in there with people from all over the country and learn metalsmithing. So I didn't really have any formal training until that point. But at the same time we were learning metalsmithing in this one class, the connecting classroom, his wife was teaching enameling in. So that's where you take like a piece of copper, and then you dust powdered glass onto it, and you put that in the kiln. So say the kiln's at 1500 degrees, you stick that in the kiln, close the door, and it's dropped the temperature for a little bit, but as soon as it gets back up to 1500 degrees, you take it out. So it's very instant gratification. At that point, the glass is all fused to the metal and melted, and it looks like usually like a really wonky color, but as soon as it cools, it's like vibrant yellow or red or whatever the color of glass that you put on it.
Right.
So everything else I had been doing was a slow roll. Like there was ceramics takes days to see what's going to happen. The PMC is like 2 days of, there was not a lot of instant gratification jewelry, except for the beaded stuff. But this enameling was very instant gratification, which was really fun. So I went there, learned the metalsmithing, learned the enameling, got home and started doing that. I had Charlie, our son, and then was home for like 4 months. And the good thing about not being paid on maternity leave was we were able to kind of see if we could do what we were doing without my pay.
Right.
And we kind of did. Not having that, and just using Mimosa as a supplement. I think I was selling on Etsy at the time, and then like some other, maybe Bourbon and Boots, like some other online kind of places you could sell. And so when I went back to work, I went back part-time because it felt like a lot to try to do Mimosa, have a baby, and it was a lot. It was way too much. So for me, so I think I worked part-time for maybe like 3 or 4 months or something like that. And then was kind of like, okay, something has to give. And we figured if it worked while I wasn't being paid, and this way I could be home with my son and I wouldn't have to pay for daycare or pay for somebody to watch him, and I could pursue, making jewelry on the side. So I was really scared though to do that because I had a landscape architecture job and I loved it. I wasn't like done with this. Like I still love it. I still kind of have FOMO to all my landscape architecture friends. Like, what projects are y'all working on? And, but so it wasn't like I was leaving like, bye y'all, I'm done with this. I was kind of like, should I? Is this a terrible decision? I spent 7 years getting this degree, and anyway, so I finally decided that was the thing to do. And once I turned and left, and my boss was wonderful, supportive. If you ever want to come back to the field, we'll take you. So she made it really easy and hard at the same time, I guess. But once I turned around and left and started like putting all my time into Mimosa, I never looked back for the most part. It was like, this is like what I get to do. So I had my son, we made jewelry. We wanted to invest in lost wax casting at that time. Like all the equipment, it's expensive equipment. It's quite involved.
So how'd you hear about this? I mean, if it's lost wax casting, it kind of sounds like it's lost. How'd you find it?
Yeah, really.
She mentioned it to me, and I was like, "What are we buying?" What?
Yeah, because
but you got that whole setup from that guy.
So that was around the time that we had met with a jeweler. I think we bought some stuff on Craigslist or something like that, like in Mississippi or somewhere. That old. He was like retiring, and he did lost wax casting. It was like, whoa, this is cool. Like, what is this? And it felt like a whole other world of like jewelry making, and you can make large scale.
Good.
Yeah, like really old school, But you can make really big pieces of jewelry. You can do, and I'd heard about it like at the school and just different places, I guess, in learning about jewelry on my own. But I knew that with PMC, you're limited for size. You can't make a big piece of jewelry. You can only really do small things or it cracks. So it's I just could only ever make tiny little pieces, like metal pieces. With lost wax casting, I would be able to make a sculpture as tall as me, or a big bracelet or whatever. So it was just on my radar because I wanted to be able to make bigger stuff, and that also felt like the ultimate way to make jewelry. So we had bought all the equipment, and then I got pregnant with Lily, and I was like, not teaching myself this now. This is not the time. And it turns out I never did teach myself because Dawson taught himself. But so we sold it, got rid of it, and then
you sold the equipment?
All the equipment.
Yeah.
So wait, hang on. So you,
Looking back, I wish we
invested in everything.
I remember moving all this equipment in the shed that we had built in the backyard. Like what is this crap? Like just moving it over and over and over. And then I think I was like, if we're not going to use this, I'm going to sell it.
Yeah. And we did.
We sold it.
So at this time, like, what are you doing, Dawson?
Oh, I'm just cutting grass.
He has his own company. He's supporting us.
So landscape architecture. I owned Mimosa with my business partner Jeremy, and we cut grass for 20 years, I think. I started that when I was 13. Got my first mower, and then he joined me in 1999, I think, and then we cut together till 2015. Is when I sold my end to him. So,
Okay.
Yeah, so that was, I got pregnant with Lily, had her, and then about 2 years later was when he came home one day and was like,
me and
I'm
Jeremy
going to sell my business
we're like
to Jeremy.
brothers.
Yeah.
I doubt he'll even listen to this. If he sees me, he'll be like, I'm not listening to that. But we're like brothers. Like, we could dog curse each other, and then the next day we're like, I'm sorry, man. But I think we were just like kind of, I knew he wanted to do Mimosa in a different way, and her business was taking off. So it was like a perfect opportunity to just be like, well, let's try something new.
Yeah, he kind of came home and was like, I think I want to do this. And we've kind of, I feel like a lot of our decisions have been like him saying, I think this is what we should do. And me being like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And then like a couple months later being like, what did we do? Is that a good idea? Maybe we should have thought about it more.
Looking back on it, like even my parents were like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, no one really was like, are you sure?
Yeah. I feel the same, even with my parents, when I told them I was quitting my landscape architecture job that we studied all these years to become landscape architects and all that. I thought they were going to be like mad or disappointed, but they were like, okay, cool. Like, I feel like less sure than you seem sure, but
you're like, no, that's not how this works.
So, yeah.
You're supposed to tell me not to do it,
Yeah.
and it's a bad idea, and I'll stay doing my landscape architecture job. That's how this is supposed to go, Mom and Dad. You're not supposed to tell me to chase my dreams and quit my job.
Yeah, that doesn't go in the book. That's not what they say.
That's not. I'm expected to be looked at like, oh my gosh, why are you throwing your life
Yeah.
away? Like that's what I want to hear. Not, I think you could do it. Go for it.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
So your parents were very supportive and
very
got you along
supportive.
through this.
Yeah,
and
his
like,
parents actually bought me that first little kiln, the one in our house.
so then Dawson comes into the picture, selling his share in Mimosa, and now you've got two people having to work in this business. So I mean, what is day one in the Ellis household?
I think it was. Well, I mean,
It was fun. It was like, oh, this is so crazy and fun. And he was like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. I'm like, okay. And then, like, I remember a couple of months in, I was like, why do I feel like I kind of want to run away? Like, what's happening? But it was like, I had been doing everything with babies on my hips.
Right.
The way that I just figured out how to do it. I'm shipping like this. I'm making it like this. Just the way I got to get it done with like
And
Putting the eye protection on the babies, you know, as you're grinding and buffing.
and you were growing organically, like
just like
and
kind
so
of
for
steady
me
and
to be,
slow.
I don't have a job, so let's ramp it
And
up.
he doesn't. He moves around and has to have like a project. So he came in like ready to, which was great. But here's the thing. So I was kind of like, well, I'll do it like this because this. But he could see the forest for the trees. Like that's inefficient and ridiculous. And I'm like, it is actually. Damn it.
But it works.
Yeah, like it works, but like, oh, you're right. And who wants the other person to be right? That was terrible. But so it was a lot of like having to be like, dang, okay, yeah, and just step back and let him come in with fresh eyes and fresh ideas and all that kind of stuff, and even just like pushing things forward, because I'd literally still be at the kitchen table probably like just making piles of jewelry, watching The Office, and if he hadn't pushed it. So after I kind of realized like, oh, okay, like this is good. I need him to, things have to change. This is part of the deal. It was great, but there's not a lot of like couples out there working together at the level that we're working together. So there's not a lot of like examples or people to follow, like
how do we do this and maintain our
navigating
marriage?
that. Yeah. Like I read a lot of books, a lot of business books, listen to a lot of podcasts, but like couples like manufacturing and designing and like running a business, there just weren't a lot of examples. So I didn't really have anywhere to look or like people to ask. And now, like, as I do come across that, it's like, oh, all of this was totally normal. We did a pretty good job, actually, so
y'all are both still here.
Yeah. But it's just like anything. It's like something to navigate. And if you don't have anybody to say like, yep, those are the hurdles, that's
and
totally
it wasn't
normal.
all easy.
No.
I mean,
yeah, totally. So at that point, he's like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Let's buy all that equipment.
So we bought it all.
Wait, hang on. Yeah, let's not gloss over that fact real quick. Yeah. So you made the decision, Dawson, that we're selling this junk in your eyes at the time. And then...
Well, I was still employed.
Right. You were still doing Mimos.
I didn't even think about like, oh, we'll be casting one day. Plus, it wasn't the setup that I would. It was centrifugal casting. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which,
because I know exactly what that means.
It's so, yeah, it's almost impossible to explain. But basically, you heat metal, and it liquefies the metal, and then you have it in this drum, and you put a flask, which is like the investment powder that, it's so hard to explain. But it's a hollow void, basically, of your pieces that you want to create once you melt the wax out.
Like a mold.
Yeah.
So you set it up, and you're melting the metal, and you're kind of just doing this by like sight and experience. And then once you think the metal is at the right temperature, you literally just like flip a switch, and this thing spins around
super
at
fast.
Probably 100 miles an hour, and that molten metal gets flung into the flask and fills all the empty voids.
Got it.
So you have to like close the lid, and then you do it, and it's like, and then you're just like, oh man.
Hope it doesn't
Seems
spin
a
out.
like
kill everybody.
spinning molten metal.
How many times did you read the instruction
We
manual?
didn't. We never did that one.
Oh, you didn't do that
so
one.
we
Yeah.
went with the vacuum, which
way
you put it in
more
something
chill.
and it just sucks the metal into it.
Gosh.
Pulls air through
there's
the
nothing
powder
slinging metal anywhere, so
Okay.
it feels
Sounds
a lot safer.
safer too.
And then when I sold the business, like we kind of invested into some new equipment.
Yeah,
which
so
was
he
nice.
sold the business, so we could kind of, it wasn't like we didn't have anything to cushion us for a little while, and then also had money to invest.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it was great. So that's when he was like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to invest in equipment. He's like, I'm going to figure out how to do it. We've never taken a class in lost wax casting. There were YouTube videos at that point. So
yeah, there was
watched a lot of
one
YouTube
YouTube
videos.
lady who was awesome. I probably watched her. I don't even know her. I'd have to go back and find it. I'm sure she has plenty of views. But just watched her. She did the whole process from start to finish. And I watched that over and over and over and over. And then just, like, you got to get all the temperatures correct. So there's a lot of, trying to figure that out.
It's like a science lab. It's so, and
it really is.
everything
It's
that
crazy.
goes into it feels like the weather, just the temperature of the humidity, everything affects it. So like, if it could go perfect, and then the next thing you could do everything just the same, and it could be a total disaster. So it felt like,
and timing. Like the first time I ever cast, I set it up at like, I woke up one Saturday. I'm like, all right, let's do it. And I think it was like 10 in the morning I got started. Well, little did I know that once the process plays out, it had me casting at like 11 o'clock that night.
Holy
And
smokes.
she was in bed. And so like, I'm like, well, I can't, like all this work would be ruined, which
Right.
it was just one flask, which doesn't seem like a lot, but like just getting started it was.
That's what I was going to say. That's a lot of time.
So I was like, oh man, I got to do it. So, set it all up and like just trying to figure it out as I go. I think I remember this goes here, and heated the metal up to 2,000 degrees, and you got this red hot crucible, and I'm like tired. And like
11 o'clock at night, you're like eyes barely open. You're like,
here
I
we
think
go.
this is how the molten lava goes.
So yeah, I poured it in, and it went in right away. It was a pecan from Mr. Norman from the Baton Rouge or the downtown arts market, and he gave us a little New Rose pecan.
Elliot, I think.
And Elliot. And so I molded that silicone mold, and I made they call it a tree. Whenever you make the jewelry tree, it's all the pieces on the trunk and count like a tree. So made a little tiny tree, like 20 pecans, and that was my first tree, and it worked out perfectly.
Which is
And I was like
a
this
miracle.
is easy.
That's even a miracle today. Like we still cast, and it's a miracle to get a perfect
Yeah.
tree. So
So
this
that
is
one
like the
worked
universe
out
being like, you're gonna get
perfect.
it.
And like, you need to go down
Yeah.
this path. We'll
Yeah.
make it easy
Yeah.
on
It
the
like
first
sucks
one.
you in with that first one.
Oh, yeah.
It's possible.
And I was so ready to like start selling it, and then for some reason I didn't clip that tree. I was like, let me just keep it. And so we have it's in the store now.
So you still have the
I
tree.
It's on a little
the
shelf in our
first
store.
Oh,
Mold
that's perfect.
with the tree. There's three things. What is it? The mold, the tree.
The disaster.
Oh yeah, the second tree. So it was like probably by that time it was like midnight, and I ran in, woke her up. I was like, "Look, it worked." She's like, "What are you talking? Like what?"
It's midnight. Is somebody breaking in? Like, why
Yeah.
are you waking me up?
So I ran back down there, cast the second one, and it just went to hell.
It's
And,
also in the store.
Yeah, so it was a mess. I messed up the investment part of it, which is when the powder turns hard around the wax.
Right.
So if you do it wrong, you'll get bubbles all over it. It just looks like nothing. And so I was like, uh-oh, this isn't that easy. So, yeah. And then just slowly started doing more.
Yeah,
Then
and
you
at
started
that
carving.
Point, at that point I could
Well,
start carving stuff.
I think it took a while. She was still doing the PMC clay, and that's really quick. Like she could make something that night, fire it that evening, and then in the morning, like, here it is, I can send this off to wholesale. And I think you were getting more and more wholesale orders. So I think once she saw the capacity that, and the replication of
yeah, it was
the
really
same
the replication
sizes.
because in PMC you're having to hand make each individual piece. With Lost Wax casting, you have a mold, so you're able to like replicate that or first original carved piece instead of having to carve every single one.
Right.
So there's just no way to keep up with the capacity of once we realized. Although it was, he's more like head on into the new thing, whatever it is. And I'm down for change, but I'm usually like lagging behind a little bit. Like, I'm trust you. Yeah. But I like still want to do it a little bit the old way. So it did take me a little bit longer to like come around because I was like, I could just do it so fast. And you're like, no, if you just trust the process, we can do more. It might take like a day longer, whatever. But I was like, so it took me a little bit longer. But once we got into it, it was like, oh, this is where it's at. So yeah, at that time we started, he was casting like a tree or like a flask, two flasks. Now we do like anywhere from like 500 to like not 1,100 pieces per
remembered
week. So
the kilns are on right now.
Oh,
I
yeah.
might have to check it during the show.
so he has to watch.
Actually, I'm going to look.
Can we get a video of is it the video of the kiln?
So I just have a camera.
Okay.
facing the kiln.
Facing the
So-
kiln. It's like a nanny cam.
So
Yeah,
it'll be
the
totally.
kiln.
If it says an error on it, that's bad. I might have to call or text my neighbor. Like,
So like if
Hey,
the
can you
kiln
do-
trips and has an error, it stops heating up and it will throw off the whole cast. So all the flasks in there won't be at the right temperature
So we're
the next
good.
day. So yeah, that's the temperature.
Okay, so those are temperatures. So turn
Just
it
a nest-
turn
oh.
it to the camera a little bit so
see the-
they can see. Well, I can't really see it too well, but okay. So
So
you've
it'll
got
say- yeah.
you've got viewing of your kilns
Yeah.
from your phone.
and we have to do that every week
What is
week?
today?
Every week.
Tuesday? Every
Today's
Tuesday
Tuesday.
night.
for the past 8 years.
He has to
I'm
basically
on
stay
call
up
till
watching
about.
the nanny cam.
If you get an error, then well, it just depends on how quick you can catch the error because the kilns will start dropping in temperature.
Okay.
And then if you don't see it right away, then you gotta you'll be up till midnight to make sure it hits those certain levels to where it won't trigger an error. So that's just part of it.
So you say text your neighbor,
Yeah, Brian.
right? So that leads me to question: are you still making this stuff at home?
And the studio in the back.
Okay, so walk us through. Let's get to that studio part. So y'all have got this stuff. When did we graduate from the kitchen table?
Probably when I had Lily, he built me a little office in the back, a little
Of the
space
house.
of
That
the
was
in the
the
house. Charles never put stuff in his mouth, but Lily was like, "What is this little thing? What is this
1,000-degree item?
No, it was never.
Go right in my mouth.
I wasn't doing stuff like we weren't casting, so
Or
it
like
wasn't
sharp
that
things.
kind of thing. It was more like beads and little findings and stuff. So we had to have a place we could lock the door, they could get into. So he built that, and that was like, oh, my little oasis. Like I could go in there, turn on my show, and just make jewelry all night, and then the shed and the shop, whatever.
Yeah, so I built like a shop, like a 20 by 20 with like a couple carports, because me and my buddy would go find old cars and kind of work on them. And so then when I sold Mimos, I was like, whoa, we could just turn the 20 by 20 in my tool room into like the studio.
Right.
And so that's pretty much like we put it into there, like all the stuff that needs to go outdoors, like all the kilns, and it's dirty, like the buffing and stuff like that. So kind of outfitted the shop, we call it, and added on a little bit here and there. And of course now we have the new building that we'll be moving into.
So I got the shop in the back. First off, what kind of cars did you repair? Because I'm very much into cars.
Well, we've had all kinds. You
We
had
had
the
a-
Beetle,
yeah,
the
we had a-
67 Volkswagen Beetle.
We've had 2 Westphalias.
A couple Westphalias that we've driven to Montana and back. It was awesome.
Wow.
What was the Airstream?
Yeah, we had Avion. And then me and my buddy, Randy, we go and get old Scouts, International Scouts. 1961 to 60, or I guess they have the 70 model too. And work on those. I love them. Love the looks of them. It's like art. I don't know.
Yeah, Scouts
it's like
are
a perfect little
Scouts are a
car.
gorgeous
Yeah.
vehicle.
Yeah.
So we've done that for years. I have an Instagram
Like
account.
bought them,
just
flipped
all the
them.
ones
So he's had
we've-
countless. I don't think you can count how many
No.
you've had of
Yeah,
those.
it's probably, it could be 100. I don't even know. Yeah. So that's been fun. We just work on them. We're tinkering on some now. Right now, I got 1, 2, 3. There's 4 that we have now that
4 Scouts.
Randy's got 2, and we have 1 50-50, and then I have mine. So,
Okay.
So yeah, it's.
How do you find 4 Scouts in Louisiana?
Well,
be
we go to
surprised. They're
Texas.
from
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Texas, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama.
Gotcha. So you've got this now. You have this studio where you're now making jewelry
Yep.
outside of the kitchen table, outside of the reach of the children. When do you? I mean, is it still just the 2 of you? What's the workforce like at this point?
It wasn't too long after you joined. Like I guess you got.
You got Jay Papa's
Yeah,
on.
he joined me like in August, I guess, and then somewhere around later that fall, we got an order from Jay Papasan. I don't know if you've read his book, The One Thing. He's great. He's an author, but he ordered a lot. 500 silver domino necklaces. And so that was like obviously our first huge order.
It was like the
and we were-
logo on his book.
Yeah.
So he,
Yeah.
I forget what exactly he was going to sell them and
Yeah.
give a lot
Yeah.
away.
So we
And we were like,
we were like, we
500
can't say
one
no.
item.
We got to figure out how to do it. Silver, we hadn't done much silver. So we were like, whatever it takes, we're going to figure this out. Yes. And we have to hire someone to help us too. So we did at that point. And then I think not too long after that, I guess we hired more people. And then, yeah, I thought it just kind of like, as this thing would come in, it would be like, okay, now we need somebody to kind of help us with that. And just slowly
there's
delegating.
just so many
and-
steps of the process. It's easy to kind of like, divide it into like, well, this person can do this,
Yeah.
instead of it's good to know the entire process.
Yeah. It's helpful when everybody on the team knows everything that happens because, well, one, they can like appreciate what the kind of work that goes into each thing, and know like the step of the process, like how long this thing takes and how what they're doing affects that thing and all that. But it is very or it can be very compartmentalized, as in like you ship, you do wax, you do content stuff, you do customer service stuff. So it's
Because I used to be able to do every step of it through a week, and that's all we would cast. It was a couple trees,
Yeah.
and then we'd buff it, and then eventually it's like, well, I need to just do the wax part while y'all are buffing, and then we knew like that kind of makes it so it was very organic growth. of hiring, like kind of figuring that out as we go as well. Because I mean, it's all made up.
Yeah, we didn't we didn't prepare to own our own jewelry business. So we didn't take a lot of
figuring out as you go.
I was
Really?
like, if this doesn't work out, I'll just go to Home Depot and organize the plumbing or something.
We didn't. So I've read a lot of books. I've made a lot of mistakes. Turns out I'm not like meant to be a manager or manage people. I'm more like meant to be locked away making jewelry somewhere. So I had been doing all of that up until about a year ago, and that's when he was like, "It's time."
Well, it's just like she was bogged down with just the managerial stuff, and I'm like, I don't even know how she was creating during all that, like. Because it's different mind. Like you managing people or whatever part of the business is just requiring your brain and then trying to design is tough.
It's like almost two sides of your brain that you're having to deal with.
Yeah.
I
don't know how you did come up with designs.
I didn't do it well. But I mean,
I don't know about
something had to suffer. It was probably the management part. But he, now that I feel like truly took it maybe 8 months for me to finally really let go of it, because there was a lot of...
This is year 8. We're just now figuring like our places.
So it was 15 years total, because we got the LLC in 2008, but 8 years with him, and it's taken, this whole thing has been a process, but even just letting go of all that stuff that felt kind of like... but I feel like every part of it has been, in delegating along the way has felt like, are they going to do it the way it needs to be done? And, all that. And you're like, okay. And then you let that go and you're like, oh, wow, okay, they actually do it good, maybe better. I don't, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. But I feel like the delegating gets closer to home, and you have to let go of things you thought you would never be able to let go. And managing and doing all the processes and procedures and keeping up with all that stuff felt like one of those things, like, how would I not have my hands in all those kind of decisions? So it took me a long time, longer probably than it should have, to let go, to trust, to realize like it will get done better. And now, like, being on the other side of it, I feel like I'm walking around like, why am I so happy? Like, I have like all this bandwidth
why is the stress gone?
Yeah,
this is weird.
Just to design and think about design and go just on inspiration finding field trips and like, that kind of stuff. But it wasn't like easy getting there, but he has made it easy because he's so good at it. And also, well, it made me kind of mad too, because I was like, dang, I tried so hard, and he's just good at it, like naturally, like it's just like intuitive. I feel like a lot of things
dumber, like stuff just like
stuff that I struggle with. It's more intuitive for him.
And I think that's why it works so well, is that you've got the balancing act here.
Yeah.
That one of you so strong over here, the other one's strong over here, and y'all kind of are able to trust each other to take over whatever area that they're in and run with it successfully. In managing, that's been I'm going through the same thing you're going through. It's like, well, I could really do this myself, and then you find out you're like, oh, wait, I told 20 other things I was going to do it myself.
Yeah.
Okay, I really can't do it myself.
It adds up. Yeah.
And then it's now I've got to train this person.
Yeah.
Now I've got to spend time training this person.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, if this comes back around, I'll still have to train them and show them. It's like, well, I didn't take that much. I took less time. It's like, wait, I took less time.
Yeah.
Wait, now I'm not doing anything at all. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you still have those like precious gems where you're like, nope, I'm going to hold on to this, and I'm always going to do this forever.
Yeah.
And then you let go of it and you're like, there is this whole other side of the world that I haven't began to touch, that now I can go and do what I want to do.
Yeah. And then they come up with better ideas, and they're even better at it. And you're like, well, dang, I was like holding back on this thing. Like I was holding it down when it could have been flourishing this whole time. But, and then also he's hired somebody that's become the manager. So even letting go further of, delegating in a whole new way, that's been amazing. So, it's just learning how to work better in a team and let go of things. And so it's been, a whole experience.
Y'all have even graduated from the shed in the backyard and actually have a new place that y'all going to be designing and building.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the decision that went into that.
It's a building.
I'm saying y'all going to be building and crafting jewelry.
Yeah.
So like what went into that? How'd you know it was the right time?
I mean, it's a terrible time right now. Interest rates have never been higher.
Right.
But luckily we locked in a pretty low interest rate. and we back up to the interstate as well, and so our shop is kind of close to the interstate. And with the widening, we were like, man, what if they take too much, land or whatever? Turns out it's not going to be the case at all. But I've always been looking.
It was always kind of time, really.
Yeah.
So it was just finding.
It'd be
the right
nice,
spot.
to have our yard back. Like we always joke, like, can't walk by the window in your boxers because someone might be like,
someone's gonna be working there,
Yeah.
and they just look up and like, okay, that's my boss. He's drinking his coffee. We
Yeah.
just made eye contact, and Dawson's just like, well, we're
sorry.
here. I mean, just
It's never happened, but
No.
still, like, it's
Yeah.
it seems like it's always someone at our house, which is fine.
Yeah.
I think we're those kind of people. It doesn't really bother us. But I think when it was COVID and we were like, man, no one came to our house for like months, and we are like, this is awesome. Get
It
used
was
to
kind
it.
of weird. It was like, I think we hadn't thought about it really, because when he was with Mimos, they always were there too.
Right.
So it wasn't like we ever had a real private house. It was always kind of like a road, like people were
Yeah.
just in and out all the time.
Yeah, like when we had like
so
5 employees at one point, they were still using our house bathroom. So people would
and
just walk
we only
in.
had one bathroom, so it was just
you had
like
one bathroom in the house.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy. But we didn't really think about it much until we weren't doing it. And then it was like, oh, is this what people live like?
Yeah,
Just like in
like,
their
wow.
home alone? So anyway, so this new place though, we're extremely excited
Yeah, so
about.
we've been looking and looking, looked at some bad buildings.
And it's, industrial, so like it's not always in the most picturesque areas. Like there's not like usually a lot of nature or wildlife, which is kind of my thing. So,
Usually your thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just went and looked at this one, and it's in the Cloverland area, industrialplex, and huge air-conditioned warehouse with offices already built. It has a 1-bedroom apartment upstairs, which I'm like super excited because we could potentially rent this to someone that could watch the kilns at night and be on site.
Yeah.
Because the last thing I would want to do is see an error and then have to drive to industrialplex to go hit 2 buttons.
Yeah. Well, now,
So,
now you can provide that housing
yeah.
for somebody.
Exactly.
Like, look, if you want to work for us, we'll pay
Yeah.
you reduced rate overnight, and now you're just
Exactly. Yeah.
you're on call 24/7, but you're getting paid 24/7.
One day a week. It's like
Yeah.
12 hours of a week. So
But the main reason we got it is in the area. I was like, oh, looks like there's a lake right behind the building. So when we get there, it's like you roll up the back doors and it's like this beautiful lake. I mean, it's got some trash, but I clean it as
where
much as I
doesn't
can.
have
And it's like a 1/4 mile lake, and it's awesome.
It's full of
quiet.
turtles, fish, snakes,
Garfish.
like everything.
So
birds.
is it on y'all's property, or is it just like
Yeah.
a shared lake?
It is
Shared.
shared to the right-hand side, but you own across all the way to the land across it and
Okay,
around
It's
it.
crazy.
So,
Yeah.
It's pretty
so
incredible.
and it's like beautiful.
So we're going to fill in the lake, and so we can add on to the building.
Eliminate the nature and completely
Push it out.
But it's great. So you just look out on this beautiful, it's like you're at the zoo and there's turtles everywhere and fish and everything. So it's really nice. So it feels like, okay, if we have to be in this industrial space, but have plenty of nature around us.
Yeah, plenty.
So, and y'all are selling out of, where are y'all selling
Our
out
store.
Okay.
We have a store on Government Street, kind of behind
South
Domino's.
Eugene.
South Eugene. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
It's like off of Government Street. It's on South Eugene, kind of at that corner where Domino's and Ragusa's is.
Yeah.
It's right behind there. And we rent the front part to a bookstore, Red Stick Reads. They're great. If you haven't been, you should totally go. And then we're in the back part. And then we have what was a mobile store that we used to be in. We call it the Shopette. That's what we started in because that kind of felt, I was never like, I want to have a store. I did not want to have a store. I would tell people I do not want to have a store because I couldn't imagine, I hadn't delegated a thing at that point. And I couldn't
Right.
imagine like, if you had a store, you'd want to go there, you need to go there. And I couldn't imagine how you could have it if, it had so many other things I had to do. But as you delegate and take things off your plate and just anyway, along the way, it became a thing that was something that we wanted to explore. And
And it was a low cost.
Yeah, it was like we owned the property and we had a mobile place to put it into on the property. So it wasn't like we're going to go have to get this big long lease or do all of this investing.
And there's like the permitting and all for like a mobile arts trailer. There's just like none.
Really?
So
Yeah.
it was just not like as scary or intimidating to just be like, okay, well, I could see us putting some jewelry in this little trailer and having one person work there. And that doesn't seem so scary to me. A store and all that felt like, oh gosh, how do you make that happen? But anyway, so we did the shopette and it was like, oh, it's like working and it's not as intimidating.
Did it where
as I
you had to
thought.
like get buzzed in. So it
Yeah.
felt, even though it's a trailer and you got silver in there, it like
Yeah.
felt safe.
So we did that for like a year or a little
year.
less than a year before we decided like, whoa, now a store doesn't seem so scary. Now that's like a brick and mortar store, like that seems like, okay, I think we could do that. And then
We rented the back of the building
yeah.
to some caterers and they kind of downsized.
at the same time. So it just kind of made sense.
Yeah,
Like,
so
okay, well
we're
now's
like,
the time
now the
for
back
us
of the
to
building is available. We could,
move in.
build it out, like
So
the decor, and
yeah.
it was worked
So now,
very smoothly.
now we're in there and that's been really nice. And like I said, like if we didn't have the manager that we have, the team that we have that works there, amazing. I can't imagine it working, without them. They do everything. They're amazing. So
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of part of that growth phase, right? Is getting team in place to handle everything, so you don't have to
Yeah.
sit there worrying about every single facet.
yeah,
You've got people in place that you trust that can handle the tasks assigned, and you're like,
yeah,
it's getting done, and we just have to kind of check in. Hey, how's things going? All right,
Yeah.
great. We're still moving along. We're still making everything
Yeah.
great. Let's keep rocking and rolling. You can focus on your creative side of things.
yeah. And even some of the creative stuff, like the content creation, we have Greta who works with us, and she's just takes stuff and runs with it. I feel like I'm like, wow, it's like what I was saying, like stuff that you're like, that's better than what it's really good. Just people that are gonna that are like worrying about it and caring about it as much as you would have is amazing, and makes it easier to let go of those things.
Yeah, and then as they continue doing it, you're like more trusting of people
Yeah.
to let go of more and more
Yeah,
and more.
absolutely.
So we didn't even actually talk about a whole lot of actual pieces that y'all make. So y'all sell some stuff at one of our other partners, McLavy. Y'all sell some fantastic cufflinks. Y'all have got some alligators in there that I saw today, and I was like, these are pretty cool. So talk a little bit briefly about some of the actual items that y'all sell within Mimosa.
So, I guess like way early it started. We're heavily influenced by the outside world, like because of their background in landscape architecture. They kind of just train you to be observant and take it in, and so early on that was like my influence. And of course I just went into landscape because I love nature and everything. So now I guess how I would describe it is this kind of is like a new thing for even in my mind how to describe it. How people will set up kind of like a little shrine or altar type thing in their room, and it's like all things that are meaningful to them, like a picture of their grandmother and like a feather that they found on a walk they took, or this rock from this place. Well, I was making like a mobile one for myself, like a little bag to have of all my like favorite things that are like special to me. And everything I would think of to put in there that was like something really special was jewelry, like my jewelry pieces, because they are pieces that I've made that kind of capture something really meaningful to me, like the squirrel or the garfish or So I was like, oh, these are all really kind of like talismans or like special keepsake kind of mementos of things that are very meaningful in our culture, in our landscape, in our lives, whether it's like connecting with a family member or a friend. So I see them as like wearable pieces that you would have to remind you of the things that mean the most to you. So yeah, that's kind of what inspires most of it is nature, things that are like human connection. So like I have one that's the soul friend cuff that's like about your soul friend, kind of like your next level best friend. I have a whole grounding collection. So there's like the Breathe bracelet, and that walks you through square breathing. So a lot of people who do yoga or people in the military will use square breathing to help kind of regulate their nervous system. And the bracelet itself is notched for you to follow that pattern of square breathing. It just looks like a random bracelet with a pattern on it, but if you know what it is, and on the inside it's printed like breathe in, 4 counts, breathe out, So, and that's the other thing. A lot of the pieces, they might be for something like grounding, but they don't say it on there. It just looks like an incognito. Yeah. So if somebody says like, oh, I like your bracelet, you can be like, if you're not in the mood to talk about square breathing or the fact that you have anxiety or something, you could just be like, thanks. Like if they have weird energy and you're just like, don't want to go there with them.
I'm not going to go into the details of what this actually means.
Right. But if you're like on a plane and you kind of hit it off with this person, they're like, I like your bracelet. You're like, actually I struggle with anxiety and this helps me do square breathing, and I use it and I'll take it off and show the person, and they're like, no way, that's so crazy, me too, or and then you can like, it's a conversation starter, just something that would be maybe a difficult topic to like enter into some other way, but it's also a tool. So I like functional things. I have this, I'm wearing one today, it's the essential oil diffuser. So there's like a little terracotta disc in there that you can soak with essential oils. So you could put, like if you're stressed out, you could put lavender on it and kind of like smell it to calm yourself down, or just smell good when it doesn't, when it's hot or something. Let's see, I have the one that's called the tactile cuff that kind of it's like all different textures and stuff, and like say we're here and I'm like nervous and I'm like need something to fidget with, like it's a good one to like rub your fingers across if you're in a meeting and you're kind of like, oh, I need something to kind of like let energy out, so pieces like that, and then pieces that are more like keepsakes, like a heart or a that you can that you could give somebody for a special occasion, or some pieces that say you are loved, or I have like the best is yet to come. I have plenty of pieces that are inspired by the local landscape and culture, which is probably like the biggest part of our collection, I guess. And those things are just some like growing along through the years with people coming in the booth and seeing, like I used to have like I don't know, maybe like the You Are My Sunshine piece, and people say, oh, like my grandmother sang that song to me when I was a baby, or and hear their own personal stories about what these pieces meant to them, or pieces that you can't really tell what it is, like the river cuff. You wouldn't look at it and say that's a river cuff. You'd just be like, oh, neat piece. But then when you learn that it's like just designed after the Harold Fisk maps from the 1940s, those beautiful maps that are kind of everywhere now, but we learned about them in school and not really that many people knew about them at the time. You can have a bigger conversation about like, oh, that's so cool, and I hardly ever go to the river, but I should go to the river more. Or, I saw this amazing sunset, and then you have this whole conversation, and especially if you're out of town or somewhere else and they don't know about something that we like, crawfish, or something that's like really typical here, but would be a really interesting conversation starter in like New Jersey.
Oh yeah, so it's almost like you're making handcrafted jewelry with a purpose.
I guess so. I hope so.
Well, I mean, it's like every single piece has something that it's tied to, which is really powerful. It's not just another thing of jewelry. It's like each thing is built specifically for a specific reason and has a specific message within it. Yeah, which brings so much more power, I feel.
Yeah, and it's what I mean. For me, I'm like an endlessly curious kind of person, and so usually it's the product of following some rabbit hole of something, some podcast or book that I've read that, whether it's garfish or like we helped rehab a baby squirrel, and that was like a really big part of our life in 2020. And so some of these pieces are like just so personal to me, and I look at them and they mean something, really personal to me, but then to see people come and tell me their story that feels just as personal, that, I'm like, oh, I thought I made that just for myself. Like the garfish, I never would have thought like as many people would love it or have garfish stories or be, so we just did a catfish collection. There's a lot of pieces that, you forget like how many of us are tied to these different parts of our culture, stories in our landscape.
I've got garfish stories for days, as well as catfish stories. Like grew up on garfish balls that my grandfather would make and make a little stew out of them, and then catfishing, and we would wait for the river to rise, and we would go run trot lines through trees during high school, and we would catch river cats and cook those. So there's a whole lot of people that can definitely relate to all those things.
And it's fun to do the things that aren't quite so obvious, like we have plenty of the stuff that is obvious, so there's nothing wrong with that because it's obvious for a reason.
Right.
We all love it. But it's fun to do the things that we've either not really paid that much attention to, or they're just under the radar because, we take it for granted. And then you dig into it and find the backstory of why it is such a part of our culture and tell that story. And then it's like kind of helping people see like the hidden gems all around us and tell them little tidbits of, fun facts or whatever that makes them like, oh, no way, I didn't know that. That's crazy. And then the next time, hopefully when they see it, they're like, did you know, to some other person. So it's like, we're surrounded by all these amazing things. Like I love to just be like in awe of stuff. So to have people feel that awe that they might not have felt otherwise is like such a cool idea of like something that our jewelry could do.
Yeah, and I mean, you're people that purchase and then write reviews. I'm sure you're able to see that time and time again. Like, oh my gosh, these stories are incredible.
Yeah.
These stories are powerful. And then, flipping that to making a social post about it or promoting what other people are saying is so powerful to see, where it's like, wow, this connects on a whole lot of people's
and it's
level.
like not for, like I think like I'll think like, oh, this one's just for me, and then like like you're saying, you hear the stories back and you're like, I don't even know what, like it's amazing. It's so cool. It's like this is what it's all about. Like it's the coolest thing.
Isn't it crazy how you think you're the only person who can relate to something, and then you have all these other people out there that are like, nope, we also relate to this, and it's like, wow.
And then you get to bond over that thing.
Absolutely.
It's
just you don't know until you put it out there, and then you get that feedback, and you say, wow, okay, I'm not the only person that has to go through this. I'm not the only person that thinks this is a unique special item to me, because everybody has a story with it. And they're all different stories, but it's all like, you still have the mementos.
And then I get to learn like even cooler things. Like a lot of times people will be like, well, did you know my papa had this thing and whatever? I'm like, what? That's crazy. Like, that's amazing. And how else would I know that? And then all of a sudden I have a new best friend to talk about garfish with or whatever.
I love it. Well, we could talk for hours, but as we kind of start to wind down the show, we do have a set list of questions that we ask every guest. So the first one is, what is something y'all did as a kid you wish you could still do today?
I know. I feel like we do a lot of the kid stuff, like sleep outside, but we do that sometimes.
That's tough.
Or what is something you did as a kid you still do today?
I will say something that I had a problem with that I didn't realize I had a problem with. That it was something I did as a kid, was just make things for the fun of it. And somewhere in doing this for a job, I lost a little bit of that, and like that, not all of it, because believe me, I've had so much fun and I absolutely love it. Everything has been, I've enjoyed, but there's a different part of your brain that has to turn on when you're making something, especially jewelry. So it's not like a piece of art that just can kind of go somewhere. And nothing against artists, because I know they have to think about things, parameters, and where it's going to go and all that. But when it's going on a human body, it has to be comfortable. It can't hurt. It can't like snag on clothes. It can't. It has to be shaped a certain way. Our mold is only a certain size. So there are a lot of parameters I have to think about when I'm designing something. I can't just be like, I want to make this wild thing. I want to make a pufferfish bracelet, because it would stab everybody. I can't do that, So I have to. There are parameters, and there's also, is this reproducible? Is that the right word? Can this be reproduced easily? So there are limitations in it, but then also I need to be thinking about like, how is this going to work the whole time I'm making it. I took a class with my friend she does pottery, and she taught some pottery classes, and I hadn't done clay in a really long time. So I was like, oh, I want to play with clay again. And I was taking it, and I realized the whole time I was thinking, can I make a mold for this? Can I reproduce this? Is this easy to make? Can I teach somebody else how to make this fast? Is this efficient? I don't know if I can get that tool. And I was like, oh, I'm not just having fun. Like, I'm not just doing this for the heck of it. I'm like thinking about all these things. So when you say like as a kid, it pushed me in that moment to kind of go back to like having a little more freedom with my designs and stuff, and letting go a little bit of I'm always going to have to think, does it fit on a wrist? Does it fit on a finger and not like stab the other finger? Or, or can we mold it in our mold, or is it too big or too small? But let go a little bit of that stuff. And then also in my own like off work time, do more things in my life that are just like painting for fun, that no one's going to ever see it. I'm not going to sell it. Doesn't matter if it's beautiful or can be reproduced. So that forced me to kind of like explore that more. So I guess I would have said, do more things where I don't have to think about those things like you do when you're a kid. But I have in the last year added way more of that back into my life. And I think it's made my jewelry making better because I'm having time to explore that in just like a much more free way. I hope that answers
absolutely. That answers it. Right now, Dawson.
I don't know. I think just like getting on your bike and just riding the neighborhood.
Yeah. You could do that.
Randomly.
You could do that.
Yeah. But like on a BMX.
Yeah.
And
you don't like still be able to go and jump ramps and do some
I
kid
grew up
things.
across the street from St. Joseph's.
Okay.
So I'd go ride all through the
campus and everything.
That was fun.
Yeah.
They would they put fences up. I don't think
they probably wouldn't allow you to ride your bike
Yeah.
through the campus while students were present. They'd probably be like,
That was fun.
Sir, we need you to leave.
I do miss that.
So y'all have done a lot. Dawson, you've been all over the map with different business ventures. And Madeline, you've gone from working for somebody to then taking this leap of faith and building this incredible company. What are 3 lessons that y'all have learned along the way throughout y'all's careers?
I know one that I've kind of like just, it sounds kind of like to be rude, but just like now that we've kind of gotten into it, I've realized how valuable time is. So I just speak my mind now. That's something I've learned. It just cuts through the chase. Like it's what I feel is what, like even just having like awkward conversations, but man, it just like, I think you end up like relating with people better. It just cuts to the chase. Like that's one thing I feel I've learned.
Yeah, there's a time and place for fluff. Generally in business, fluff can be eliminated and still get the job done and even more efficiently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that one.
Maybe it's midlife crisis. Hurry up.
I think a big one for me has just been this continuous thing of like letting go, trusting, delegating, trusting Dawson. I feel like our relationship in this has been kind of like you commit to being married. When you work together, you have to just commit to like, this is what we're going to be doing. Not like, I don't really like it anymore. Or like, or like there's so many little things that can come up along the way that like, throw it, and make it difficult, that you have to be like, this is what we're committed to. Like, because there are so many times that you could easily uncommit to it. So I feel like in my mind, I committed to it the same way we committed to being married, almost like.
And also we have another couple that works, my cousin Andrew and his wife Blair. She's the general manager and he does all the casting and stuff. So it's almost,
you got
two couples.
You got couples within couples.
Yeah. But then, like, I don't see her during the day much.
Yeah, now day to day we really
they're the
aren't
same too.
Together too much. And now that I feel like used to, our roles were a lot more like intertwined even. And now that he's taken a lot and then Blair's taken a lot, we don't have to talk about a lot of business stuff that we used to have to talk about.
Everybody's in their natural role now.
Yeah. So it's cleaned it up a lot as far as all the like take home conversations. Like I feel like we used to talk about a lot more. Now it's kind of like, hey, so what do you want to watch tonight? Like, and we're like, don't talk about work.
I'm playing solitaire.
Yeah.
And I'm like painting like child. But yeah, and like, yeah, getting to know know yourself and know your role, like to understand. I think Craig even helped us with this, like that he's more like, we have this analogy of like, he's the one, if you're building a ship, like he's the one that's like still kind of building the ship as we're going out to sea. And I'm kind of like there with a paddle, like, yeah, I trust you. We're going to get there. It's going to be good. But like not get shocked that he's always going to want to build a new ship and do some other new big project or something. Like I know that he's kind of the one to have that role, to like have a vision for something and bring it home and me be like, yeah, okay, sure. As long as I get to make jewelry, I don't care, and then my role is to like be supportive of that and find my way in it too. I mean, I have ideas too. I'm not trying to say and he's supportive of those, but realizing where each other's strengths, I guess really that's what it goes back to, strengths and what we enjoy doing too.
Absolutely.
Leaning on each other for that. Like, oh no, you actually like doing that, so you should do that.
Yeah, and that ability to recognize that is huge. It kind of comes with time too.
Man, yeah, and like a lot of mistakes.
Oh, there's always mistakes.
Man, but it's like, you hear the podcast, you read the books, and like hustle and fail, and it sucks, but it teaches you a lesson. You're like, but I didn't know it was going to be this hard. Like,
I didn't know I had to fail this many times.
Or like, it seems like cool the way you failed. My fails feel horrible, and like I'm going to die. Like, it's ripping my guts out, So, not to be dramatic, but sometimes they feel really, it's pretty bad, and like there's other people involved, and I can look back and be like, oh gosh, the things I've said and done, the ways I've leaded, I wish I could, but I also have to, the question of like, do you only can be perfect always? You're never allowed to not know how to do something. So like, yeah, okay, I guess it's okay that I wasn't a perfect manager because I never did it before and I didn't go to school for it, and now I know better. But yeah, anyway, the mistakes, those are hard, but it's true. You learn from them. And I mean, it is true. I feel like now, younger people, like if they read that stuff and, or people who are up and coming and like trying to have a new business or their own business, like, yeah, I'm ready to fail. I'm ready to do this. Like, no, it's going to hurt way worse than they say. It's going to be really hard, but
the books make it seem pretty and nice, but it's not pretty and nice out there.
No, but
so what is something y'all love about Baton Rouge?
I think just like the community of our friends.
Yeah, that I think. Sure. I mean, for me personally, I love the lakes. It's so simple, but I love the lakes. Like they're just alive with wildlife and everything. I
know it's
physically that's just like
seeing
so
them
beautiful.
Be dredged again. It's like, but it's going back to swamp. Like this is kind of natural. Leave it.
But there's so much potential in Baton Rouge. There's so many people doing things with the Mid-City Makers Market that we used to do. Meeting so many talented people, and you think like, oh, I've kind of been on the maker scene. I felt like I knew what was going on, and constantly meeting new people that are doing things that you had no idea they were doing that are incredibly talented. They're just kind of on this side of town or that side, just happen to run in different circles and you just hadn't crossed paths yet. And to constantly be surprised at the amazing things that are going on and people really doing like really good work, not just creative work, artistic work, all kinds of work. Your kind of work, Craig. There's just a lot going on in Baton Rouge that just kind of is humming under the radar. I feel like there's always something to be inspired by and excited by.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that.
And the proximity to a lot of really cool little towns around. Like this summer, me and Greta spent a lot of time going to like Brobridge, Arnaville, just towns that are like an hour away or whatever, and just asking everybody like, where do you go eat lunch? Where do you shop? What are the good antique stores? What are the things that we need to go see, the sites or whatever? And we've been like writing little blogs about those, and it's really kind of like an artist date or like an inspiration date to go just see what's out there that like I might not find something that day or realize something that day, but like 3 months later I'll be like, oh, I gotta make whatever the thing is. And then the reason in making a blog about it is to tell people a lot of times you're sitting around like, what are we gonna do this weekend? I don't know, there's nothing going on. Literally just 1 hour away, you can go have this really cool experience in like the cutest town in Louisiana. Oh, yeah. And there's tons of them. So that's the proximity to all of that is really cool.
Yeah, and then getting that out there for other people to know about it is huge.
When they do the newsletters, I actually like reading them. I'm not a reader.
You're like, oh, this is actually pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We should go there.
Yeah, so it sounds like y'all need to be like doing a local Louisiana travel podcast almost. We're just sneaking in what we want to do. That's what I'm saying. You just do what you want to do and then just talk about it. Absolutely. Yeah. Maybe. I'll have to delegate some other things. Make some room. So for the final question, what can I do to help y'all? Well, you've helped me greatly. Yeah, I think you're already accounting. You're like maxed out on all that. We're good. Okay. Maybe come buy some cufflinks if you want. Yeah, I do need some cufflinks. Oh no, actually, I told him we
we'd hook them up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I like some alligators now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can personalize something.
The head.
Oh, yeah.
And we are getting the new machine. So
Yeah.
do a little laser engraving soon.
We just invested in an engraving machine. So that's something we've been wanting to do for a really long time, and probably get asked like every other day from a customer, if something can be engraved. And we just hadn't been able to do it or been ready to.
Yeah, it's another machine that
Yeah.
me and Andrew are going to try to figure out, and we don't know what we're doing. So it'll be interesting.
A lot of trial and error.
Yeah, a lot.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Just make some content around it. Just like film y'all's
Yeah.
process.
He's gonna wake me up in the middle of the night, like, I got one. It's perfect.
Look, I got one initial
Yeah.
dialed in.
Yeah. The next one's gonna be trash.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well,
So.
for those that are interested in purchasing some stuff from y'all, what's the easiest way for them to do it?
If you're in Baton Rouge, go to our store at 541 South Eugene. If you're out of town, you can go to www.mimosahandcrafted.com and buy it online.
Perfect. And we'll link y'all's social and y'all's website and all the show notes and everything so people can quickly click and go and figure out what Mimosa is and find something that relates to them.
Cool.
So thank y'all so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I appreciate getting to hear y'all's journey and everything that y'all kind of have going on. And I look forward to seeing you where the next level y'all are going to go to.
Yeah.
So thank y'all. And thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody else, for listening or watching whatever platform you're consuming us on. I really appreciate it. And the guests do as well. Look, if you're into jewelry or maybe you're just curious about whatever it is that Mimosa Handcrafted Jewelry sells and you want to find something that relates to you that you can kind of get attached to, go check out their website. They're in the show notes. They're tagged in all of our social posts for this episode. So make sure you hit them up and let them know the Patty G Show sent you. And also a big thank you to the amazing folks that bring you this show each and every week. Hear a little bit more about them right now.
Welcome to the brand new Falia mobile app. We took all the same tech that's helped hundreds of people sell their homes themselves and packed it into an easy-to-use app for your phone. When you download the Falia mobile app on either the Apple or Android App Store, you'll immediately be able to see the power of this game-changing tool. From the seller's dashboard, you can navigate to all the information that you need. We intentionally separated everything into key groups, such as tasks to be completed, buyer leads for your listing, and contact information for everyone involved through closing. When you get an offer on your property, you can simply review and respond all within the app. No matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to monitor everything that's going on with your property from listed to sold. It's truly the power of Falia in the palm of your hand. Download the app and see for yourself. Falia, it's real estate reimagined.
Thank you so very much to Building 5 for becoming the latest sponsor of the Patty G Show. We are going to be filming once a month at Building 5. We're going to post about it on our social so you can come and visit with us. Building 5 is an excellent food establishment if you're into sharing boards and really getting a creative menu. Misty and Brumby have done an excellent job of creating an environment that's warm, welcoming, and inviting for every single occasion. Go on over to Building 5 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and tell them that the Patty G Show sent you. Thank you to Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge for making this show possible. Nick Pentis is a past guest. We love having him on. Listening to him talk about the culture they have over at Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge is really an incredible thing to hear. How they treat not only their employees, but every customer that walks through the door. You are more than just a number to them. They're going to give you that white glove concierge service every step of the way. They're going to make you feel like family and take what can be a stressful time in people's life, shopping for a car. They're going to make it so enjoyable and so pleasurable. You're going to want to go back there time and time again for every new vehicle. Thank you so very much for Mercedes-Benz of making this show possible. Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Lake Men's Health Center with Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group. Guys, I know it's tough to get out and go to the doctor. I know it's challenging to find time in our busy days, but I promise you, signing up to be a part of this group with Dr. Curtis Chastain and Dr. Tyler Boudreau, you won't regret it for several reasons, but most of those being the fact of the time it saves, where you're able to get in on the same day, get that appointment done, and spend that time you need to talk with them about what your health goals and concerns are, as well as ensuring that the financial investments you have, you will be able to live out and see those come to fruition. So if you're an investing guy, you know all about and planning for the future and investing in the future. There's no other more important thing to invest in than your health. Make sure you go check them out. our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group Men's Health Center and tell them Patty G sent you. McLavy's Ltd, a proud sponsor of the Patty G Show, has been serving the Baton Rouge area proudly for 40 plus years. Gentlemen and ladies, if you're shopping for your man, there is no other place in the Baton Rouge area to get your clothing, whether it's game day needs, everyday needs, business attire, formal attire, whatever you want. Go over there, see Frank and Ashley. It's a father-daughter duo. They do incredible things in their store. They will outfit you from as simply a shirt that you need for one evening or all the way to a full wardrobe overhaul. They're going to take care of you every step of the way, and be sure and let them know that Patty G Show sent you. The Patty G Show is proudly brought to you by Mimosa Handcrafted Jewelry. Mimosa Handcrafted Jewelry is a local business right here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They create handcrafted jewelry for everyday use, that special occasion, whatever it may be. Gentlemen, they've got amazing jewelry both for male and female. Everyone is their audience. You know, after years of experimenting with everything from ceramic jewelry, glass beads, and enamel, they've settled in on the ancient art of lost wax casting. Is their main form of creating their work. They cast everything in bronze, sterling silver, and 14 karat gold. Every step of the way is done here right in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Proud sponsors of the Patty G Show. Mimosa Handcrafted Jewelers. Get out there and tell them that Patty G sent you, and they're going to take great care of you on your next order. Thank you so very much to Currency Bank, a proud sponsor of the Patty G Show. If you are looking for a business bank that fosters on 3 core values, relationships, service, and technology, Currency Bank is the place for you. They pride themselves on convenient, accessible, and secure online banking resources where you can manage your account balances, initiate transfers, enroll with e-statements, and more via their online portal. Between the relationships, the service, and the technology, they are going to be that partner with your business every step of the way, regardless of what you need. Currency Bank is the bank for business owners.
Simple man, don't wanna complicate ya. Complicate ya.